Well, right now here on the program, let's get an update on crop conditions in portions of southern Iowa, southwest Iowa, into portions of Nebraska a little bit as well. We are watching how things are looking here with the growing season, also talking diseases like tar spot, a big issue in much of the Corn Belt that we want to get some thoughts and tips on. Joining us for a conversation, it's been a little while since we talked to him, Brevant Seeds retail agronomist John Long is with us. John, it's good to talk with you again. How are you, sir?
Hey, it's great to be with you again, and things are going well here in Western Iowa.
Let's talk a little bit about crop conditions. I know that you were kind of on the periphery of some of that flooding I know we've seen in the northwestern Corn Belt. That was some more northwest Iowa, but I'm wondering if you've had any challenges from flooding in your region. How are crop conditions looking here as we get to mid-July?
Sure. Well, I will tell you that we have had about the most diametrically opposite cropping year this season that we've had versus from 20 to 23. In those years, we struggled to have enough moisture and, somehow got by in most of those years with pretty decent crops. This year, we've had ample amounts of rain. In some cases, as you said, too much rain and flooding to the north and the northwest Iowa. And of course, our thoughts go out to those folks up there that have had some losses. But overall, I read an interesting stat the other day that on July 4th of this year, Omaha had only recorded, Omaha, Nebraska, eight days over 90 degrees. The last 4 years, we'd had 20 days over 90 degrees. So our air temperatures have been down. We've had timely rain. We've got some subsoil moisture built up. So all in all, with all the wet weather and some of the challenges to get this crop in, we have a tremendous crop growing out here in Western Iowa right now.
Well, that's good to hear. I do know there are some challenges that could be on the horizon for some crops. Let's talk about tar spot in corn. That is something that has really impacted a lot of the Corn Belt here in recent years, and it continues to be an issue. Talk about tar spot. How can growers take action against the threat of tar spot in corn right now?
Sure. So there's, multiple things about tar spot. Number one is to pick germplasm that has good natural tolerance to tar spot, which Brevant Seeds and Corteva vet things very carefully. And we have a tremendous lineup of hybrids that have above average and a lot of things with excellent tar spot ratings. So, when growers go to choose hybrids for next season, that's something to keep in mind. Secondly, there's lots of information sources out here. Tar spot has been recorded in a lot of counties across Western Iowa. So keep up with that, whether it's through local extension or your local ag retailer to find out the tar spot situation at this point in time. Third thing, is to scout. Of course, diseases tend to start in the lower part of the canopy. So it's really key to notice those early. And then the next thing is right now there are airplanes flying over our corn. We're fully tasseled. So using a good broad spectrum fungicide in combination with some of those Brevant hybrids that have excellent tolerance are going to give you the best outcomes possible when it comes to tar spot.
It's kind of to that point with fungicides and things like that, some of the in-season management, it's not a time to, lay off or let the foot off the gas, so to speak. If things are looking good in your area and you maybe have some concerns that tar spot could be there, it's best to try and get ahead of it as soon as you can. Right, John?
Oh, 100% correct. And I know as I visit with growers on a day-to-day basis, this crop has probably cost them more to put in the ground between inputs and interest rates and everything than any crop they've ever done. So everyone looks at, the spend they've done so far, but I look more at the potential of this crop and what it has to offer. So, I compare it to one of those things of you've done everything right to this point. You've chosen a great hybrid. You put on the fertility you needed. You've taken care of weed control issues. This crop is here to do some amazing things, but you've got to protect that in the end. So fungicide application here over the next probably 14 days is going to be key to protect that investment and to get you across the finish line, to get you the best yields possible. And with a little bit lower commodity markets, that's kind of the name of the game, is to grow as many bushels as possible to make profitability. And one of the reasons, or one of the ways to do that, is to make sure that the tar spot does not impact your yield.
What about nitrogen loss? I've heard some talk in certain parts of the Corn Belt that some folks are worried about losing some of that N from some of the heavy rains we've seen, leaching and washing away, etc. Anything we could do here in season? Any recommendations you would have for folks who are thinking their corn crops maybe a little nitrogen deficient right now?
Sure. So about 15, 20 days ago, I worked with a lot of ag retailers that were actually out doing some core samples, and they were finding in some places that it had excessive rains. There was some nitrogen loss. So they did some applications, whether it was ammonium sulfate or urea or product like that. They actually did some post spreading of nitrogen over some of these fields, which when you do that, you're at the mercy of another rainfall to make sure that nitrogen gets in the ground. And that happened for us for the most part. So still to this point, you can do some Y dropping aerial applications. You could add some supplemental products when you do your fungicide to help with nitrogen. But we're about to the point of no return. Once the corn is tasseled, within about 10 days of that, you're not going to see much benefit of any additional nitrogen. So at that point in time, it would probably be best to take your late season nitrogen tests in September, right around black layer, to see where you're at, and that can kind of help you identify management for the future.
We're talking with John Long from Brevant Seeds, retail sales agronomist in western and southwestern Iowa. John, how about soybeans? Anything in particular you are watching with our soybean crop here this year? Any disease or pest pressures you're concerned about? Things like that. Give us some thoughts on soybeans real quick.
Sure. So, as we continue across western Iowa to plant soybeans earlier each year, we know that there's impact of early planting, damp, cool conditions, and the inoculation of sudden death syndrome into soybeans. So that's something we're keeping an eye on. We also at Brevant have introduced a new lineup over the last couple of years that have some tremendous defenses against sudden death, and adding to that some of the seed treatments that can be done today is a really good way to help manage that. But sudden death is one that I would tell you to be looking for. White mold could also, with all the moisture, become an issue. And we have some soybeans that are pretty darn spectacular in white mold as well. So, that's more, again, of a variety-driven decision pre-season. But those are a couple of things that are going to be out there, along with some foliar things, frog eye and some things like that can be helped with a fungicide application. And just overall, again, with the high yield potential, I think it's very warranted to put a fungicide application on soybeans as well.
Well, and I think too, with some of the high yield potential in certain areas and thinking about some of these diseases and pests that could be out there, I think it comes back to, at the end of the day, John, to get the most potential out of your crop, make sure you get out there, do some scouting, and have that plan ready to implement here fairly quickly to take advantage of the potential that's out there, right?
Oh, yes. That's you might be getting a phone call from your ag retailer or your seed provider here in the coming days and weeks. And it's a fairly small window that you have to make a decision to get the best benefit you can out of these foliar products like fungicide and some of the other additional things, insecticides, and some of the stress mitigation products that they put out with those applications. So, you got to be ready to pull the trigger. So if you have the opportunity, we have some things at Brevant.com, some agronomy updates that talk about diseases, some things that you can be doing, or talk with your local ag retailer to, find out what some of the possible disease pressures are and, what some of the yield losses would be, and educate yourself of what the best product would be to try to take care of those issues.
Well, and again, that website you mentioned, Brevant.com, for more information. A lot of great stuff there, a lot of great agronomic tips and products and much more. Brevant.com. With that, John Long, Brevant Seeds, retail sales agronomist in Iowa. John, thanks for joining us again, and we'll look forward to talking to you again real soon. Appreciate the time.
Hey, thanks for your time today. Have a great day.